Hello, my amazing artists. Today we are going to be creating a penguin inspired by the amazing Canadian artist Ted Harrison. We are going to need a pencil. You might want some crayons, you might want some watercolors, and of course, a fresh sheet of paper. So to get started with our awesome penguin, we are going to be laying out the basic shape of our penguin. We're going to be using a big letter U. I like to start with my pencil. I would recommend that you press lightly. I'm going to press a little bit harder so you can see the marks. I'm making a big letter U that comes all the way around upside down for the outside of the body of my penguin. Now, penguins' feathers come in two colors. We have black feathers and white feathers. To show the distinction between those two, we're going to create a letter V towards the top. And then we're going to curve it around town for its flippers. So we're bringing down a curved line that kind of copies, kind of mimics the outer edge, and then comes in a little bit for its fabulous flippers. Penguins have eyes just like you and I. They have two. We're going to use some ovals to do their eyes. 1 and 2. Penguins have beaks. To make their beak, we are going to draw a fat letter V. Then we're going to connect it with a curved line to make it a cone. I'm going to add a triangle on my letter V cone here to show the reflection of where the light is hitting the beak. I might add in some hatch marks to show where the shadow is on the other side. Now, we talked about how penguins have feathers, so I might repeat some little letter U's to show that feathery texture of my penguin. Where do penguins live? You're right, most penguins live in Arctic climates, kind of like what we would find in northern parts of Canada. To show that he's in a place, we're going to add in some lines that go from side to side. We're going to add in some horizontal lines. So there's 1, there's 2. As I'm adding in these lines, I'm thinking about what kind of landscape I want to have in the background. Maybe it's mountains, maybe there are streams. Then I'm going to think a little bit about the sky. Something we see in a lot of Ted Harrison's artwork is we see what are called the Aurora Borealis, or the northern lights. We see these bright, colorful streaks in the sky. We are going to add some of those into our artwork with some lines that are kind of radiating out from our penguin. I'm going to use some wavy lines to do that. Now that I've got my awesome penguin all drawn out, I might want to trace over him. Because we're later going to be painting, I'm going to put this paper underneath my paper to protect my table so that the permanent marker that I use to trace my lines doesn't soak through onto my table. So I've got my paper all ready to go. Then I can trace over my lines. And it's okay if I don't quite end up perfectly on those lines, because I can always erase the pencil line later. Alrighty, now it's time to add color. I'm going to be adding color today with two different materials. I'm going to be using crayons and I'm going to be using watercolors. I'm going to start with my crayons because the crayons can do something really cool. Because of the waxy material that crayons are made out of, they can resist the watercolors. So I'm going to use crayons in areas that I want to stand out as crayon details, and not be filled with the watercolors. This is also a way to kind of control the watercolors and keep them where I want them to be. So I'm going to use my white crayon over some areas that I want to be reflective of just the white of the paper. And then I might use some of my other colors to kind of outline and trace and maybe add in some visual texture and interest in some other areas too. Of the special color groups that we see often as we're looking at sunsets, as we're looking at sunrises, and as we're looking at the northern lights, is we often see the analogous colors, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So I'm going to be using two different sets of analogous colors that we know rather well. I'm going to use the warm colors, red, orange, yellow, and I'm going to use the cool colors, green, blue, and purple, to kind of separate the areas of my artwork. So I'm going to be using the warm colors in the sky, and I'm going to use the cool colors in the snowy, icy landscape. Now, as I start to paint, I'm going to start with yellow because it's the lightest color of the colors of the color wheel. And I'm going to get my brush a little wet. I'm going to add just a drop of water to my yellow paint and then maybe another one. And then I'm going to dance my brush across my paper like a ballerina, making lovely, beautiful brush strokes. It's important not to add too much water or too little water because we don't want to soak our paper, and we want to be careful about the brush strokes that we're making sure that we're just using the tip of the brush. We're not scrubbing with our paintbrush because that's not very attractive. So we're going to dance with our paintbrush ballerina, making beautiful brush strokes. In between each color, we're going to swish our brush in our water cup. We are going to swipe it gently on the lip to get that water in that paintbrush clean before we move on to a different color. This is a great way we can take care of our paint. So I'm going to move along the rainbow to orange. Again, I'm making beautiful brush strokes. I'm not scrubbing with my paintbrush. Then before I switch to my next color, I'm going to swish my brush in the cup, swipe it on the lip. I'll keep going until I have finished my entire painting. Analogous colors, just to review, are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. For instance, green, blue, and purple are next to each other on the color wheel. Red, orange, and yellow are next to each other on the color wheel. When I'm all done, I will make sure that I've swished out my paintbrush really well in my water cup so that it's all clean. I will set my paint and my paintbrush and my painting in a safe place to dry. Then I will clean up my workspace and post my artwork to Seesaw. I can't wait to see what you create.